Welcome to Creamer Media's Polity. I'm Amy Witherden. I am at the headquarters of the Human Sciences Research Council today to meet with Dr. Omano Edigheji and discuss his recent article on the Green Paper on National Planning and how it affects South Africa's move towards a developmental state. Omano, how would you define a developmental state?
A developmental state can simply be defined as such a state that have a developmentalist ideology, and I will explain that, and at the same time establish and deploy both political and administrative institutions to be able to achieve its developmentalist goal. So that is the simple definition. And when we talk about developmentalism, there are two core issues there. The first is that the state needs to be able to promote industrialization. Industrialization is at the heart of any developmental state. But you do not industrialize the state do not industrialize for its own sake. It industrializes as a way of improving the material conditions of people. So it is a state to a degree that I will said is able to promote what I refer to as equitable growth. I.e., you have growth, but that growth is not for its own sake. It is a growth that is able to enhance human capabilities. But the entry point of developmental state are different. The 20th century developmental state basically was said to focus on industrialization, but that's a misread of the literature. But enhancement of human capability is at the heart of a developmental state.
How could South Africa's Green Paper on National Planning aid in the process of building a developmental state?
Okay. Let me indicate that a Green Paper is a discussion document, right? And it is good that the government have put out that discussion document, and it has generated a lot of interesting debate. The Green Paper basically said there will be a National Planning Commission that will formulate the national plan. But tragically, it is said that the Green Paper, or it is said in the Green Paper that the Planning Commission will be made up of experts of all states that I'm aware of, or developmental states that I'm aware of. If you include Botswana, it is only Botswana that has a Planning Commission made up of experts. All developmental states, South Korea Economic Planning Board, as an example, it is made up of technocrats, headed by a political head. In the case of the Korean example that I'm talking about, it was headed by the Deputy Prime Minister, supported by the Minister of the Planning Commission, of the Economic Planning Board. So I think both the ANC and the government are getting it wrong in that respect. And the problem is that one reason that you need the planning agency is that the planning agency is able to synchronize and integrate programs, policies, plans of all land ministries. And if you look at the Korean case in particular, the EPB kept an immediate distance from sectional interest, because the reason for that is that you do not want your planning agency to be contaminated, to be captured by private interest. So the planning agency, the central planning agency, should not be charged with the task of consulting, as the Green Paper is trying to suggest. That should be the responsibility of line department. And land department then had to feed their policies into the national plan. But because those in the planning agency could then objectively, as they are neutral arbiter in assessing the various plans, they can objectively, they have not been lobbied by private interest. The primary task of generating the initial ideas should not be that of the planning agency. It should emanate and originate from line department. But at the same time, the planning agency should have the capacity to be able to veto. And I know this is very unpopular in the South African debate, to be able to veto the programs, plans, and activities of land department. And I am saying it is unpopular because there is fear that we are going to have super that is the person heading the planning agency will be a super minister, which Kosatu refers to as the imperial prime minister. But I think the tragedy of the South African debate of the planning of the National Planning Commission, I think the tragedy of that debate is that it has been personalized to be Minister Trevor Manuel versus Minister Ibrahim Patel. It should not be. You design institutions not for individuals. You design institutions to be able to have long-term goals. Your institutions enables you, institutions regulates you. To use the word of Douglas North, the institutions are rules, and rules constrain our individual actions. So, but if you design institutions focusing on another person, and that is the problem in the African continent, where we have not been very careful in designing institutions, rather we individualize institutions. I think fortunately though, I should concede this, that the two ministers that I have mentioned have not been part of the fray in terms of being, I think it is people that support them or constituents that support them. But we should focus on the institutional arrangement. And that has been what my intervention is about, which is what are the kind of institutional arrangement? How should the planning agency be configured? In my view, I think it should be headed by the deputy president, and there are two reasons for this. The president is very busy, so he can't be focused on it. So the deputy president could focus primarily on economic and social policy and social transformation. And why it should not be headed by a minister, in my view, my read is that the deputy president is first among equal in relation to cabinet colleagues. But if it is an ordinary minister, they are pairs. So the capacity of one minister to be able to tell the other one, look, this program you put in place is not going to fly, is very limited. But at the same time, you need also a minister in the planning agency to be able to oversee the day-to-day running of the functioning of the planning agency. And the argument that I made in my paper is that instead of having a planning commission, what we need is a planning ministry in the presidency, and which is headed by the deputy president, supported by the minister of planning. But central to that, it is resourcing the planning agencies with competent, highly qualified technocrats. Those are the guys who the only thing they do, they wake up, look at their laptop, and crunch the numbers and give us different scenarios about where the country should go. And they should objectively be able to integrate and analyze the various policies coming from land department. Institutions are highly inelastic. If you get them wrong, they live with you for a while, and the consequences are there. So getting institutions right is very central. If you get it wrong by making it to be composed of experts, as is being proposed in the Green Paper and also being endorsed by the ANC National Executive Committee, I think it will be unfortunate. Unless you then have these technical experts in the presidency.
Who are part of the government, that are brought
Yes,
into
who
the
are
government.
part of government, yeah. Let me make it, thank you. The simple point is that the planning commission should be made up of government people.
Not outsourced.
Not outsourced. You can't outsource your planning capacity, which I think having this agency made up of experts is tantamount to outsourcing government planning capacity and government planning authority. You need this capacity in-house for a number of reasons. I have alluded to some of them. You need institutional memories, right? People would have, in the course of doing the work, they would have been making mistakes, they would acquire knowledge, they would acquire skills. Over time, they will become extremely competent. If it is outside experts, I do not see how they will be able to do that.